We're here at the 2025 Tour de France, and next up we've got team Visma Lease Bike. We're going to check out Jonas Vingegaard's bike, maybe see what else they've got around the mechanics' trucks. But first, a big thanks to Abus for sponsoring this section of the video. Abus offers high quality and attractive cycling helmets designed for racing, off-road, the city commute and the family bike ride, as well as a whole range of bike locks and security devices. Hit the link below to find out more. So this bike is Jonas Vingegaard's brand new, updated Cervélo S5. Now overall, as you can probably see, it looks very, very similar to the old model at a glance, but I am told there have been a lot of changes under the skin, as well as some ones on the surface as well. Now the most obvious change is the move from a two-piece cockpit up top to a one-piece handlebar. And as you can see when we put in a little bit of cutaways, is that the middle section of this handlebar has been thinned out, presumably an effort to save weight, as well as removing those bolts. Possibly a little bit more aero. The Garmin sits really nicely in line with this little raised bit, but I would imagine that's mostly about weight saving. In terms of other changes, the kind of cord length of the tubes has been deepened ever so slightly. It's still a really narrow bike front on. The head tube tapers into a really nice hourglass shape from up front. And also the compensation triangle in between the kind of top tube and the seat tube has been deepened just a little bit for an extra bit of aerodynamic efficiency. The down tube is still a really chunky, truncated aerofoil tube shake, and you can still see that it hugs the rear wheel as it comes off the head tube. That's presumably just to capture that airflow as it kind of comes off the fork, off the rear wheel, and to manage it over the back part of the bike. You can see it still has the drop seat stays at the back, although the seat stays are much deeper and more aero profiled than on the R5. And the bike still has this chunky aero seat post at the back. It looks like it could be a little bit slimmer than the one before, perhaps just in a bit to shave weight as well, although it's not a massive change. It's still a proper deep section aero seat post. Now this is also a new wheel set too. This is the Reserve 57/64 by the looks of it, and the old one used to be a 52/63. Now, we haven't measured them yet, but I'm pretty sure the 57 means that this is a 57mm deep front rim, and the 64 means it's a 64mm deep rim at the back. Now that's going to come just inside the 2026 UCI regulations, where you're allowed a maximum rim depth of 65mm. So that's pretty good for a Reserve. Would have been a bit annoying to have designed a wheel set that was 66mm, wouldn't it? And these are rolling on DT Swiss 180 hubs, which is the kind of premium model with the most fanciest bearings, the smoothest, lowest friction, and all of that sort of lovely jazz. It's kind of hard to tell from the graphics that are painted on it, but it does look like the fork has got a little bit deeper too. It's still using this kind of time trial style bayonet mount, where the fork has a kind of insert that goes up through the head tube, and this bit here is structural, but it's kind of acting like a fairing. It's not, the steerer tube isn't running inside this bit, the steerer tube is running in here, and then the handlebar kind of bolts on top here, just on top of this little one spacer that Jonas has here. And you can see how if you remove this spacer, this stem would flow straight into the top tube for a really smooth effect. So in terms of drivetrain, Jonas Vingegaard is of course running the latest SRAM Red Axis, the 12-speed version, and he is running it one by with a 52-tooth chainring up front and a 10 to 36T cassette out back. He's also running Wahoo Speedplay Aero pedals for that little bit of aerodynamic benefit, and in terms of crank length, we have 160mm. Now Jonas Vingegaard is not the biggest rider in the bunch, but he's probably not the smallest either, but 160mm, I reckon that might be the shortest crankset that we see at this year's Tour, though of course we will have to see. Like the rest of the Visma Lease Bike team, Vingegaard is using a wax chain, and on this bike he also has this really cool little trick aerodynamic sort of chain guard there. It's got this little teardrop shape, which we'll get a little close-up of to show you, and that just keeps the chain from falling off from the one-by chainring. In terms of tyres, he's running the Vittoria Corsa Pro in the wide rim optimised 29C size. We'll measure these tyres up just in a minute to see how they are actually measuring up with the calipers. And then up top, he's got a Pro logo scratch M5 saddle with carbon rails. As I said, Vingegaard's bike has the new one-piece cockpit up front, but it does look quite narrow, although the stem doesn't look as extreme as his teammates Matteo Jorgensen, who's running a stem that's around 150mm long on his new R5, which you've also seen at this year's Tour de France. Of course, we'll get that measured up in just a moment, and we'll tell you the weight. All right, let's get this handlebar and stem measured. It's coming out as around, pretty narrow, yeah, that's coming out around 36 centimeters center to center at the hoods. Should make it a little bit narrower between the bars, yep. 30 centimeters between the hoods, which will be illegal from next year if the UCI gets its way. And then let's measure that stem. Kind of tricky with this one because it's not exactly clear where you'd be measuring from, but if we were going to measure from, I think it bolts here, let's measure from here. And if you measure from there, it's quite big. It's more like sort of 14, 15 centimeters. If you measure from that bolt, it's more like 12. I think this is a 120 mil handlebar because that's what Jonas has been running previously at previous years of the Tour. All right, so let's get this thing weighed. It is coming out definitely heavier than the R5. I can tell that with my carefully calibrated arms. If we just wait for it to settle, it's coming out around 7.385 kilos, which is not all too bad considering this has a slightly bigger Garmin, looks like an Edge 830 or an Edge 840 up top, and it also has 2 bottles. So all things considered with the deep wheels, pretty good for a brand new aero bike. Well, there you go. That was Jonas Vingegaard's brand new Cervélo S5 for the 2025 Tour de France. As always, let us know what you think in the comments below and look out for more Tour de France content coming soon to this channel.